Hi everyone, this is Christina Barr and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about, diving back into the story we talked about yesterday. Daily Wire broke a big story about a parent who's been splashed in the national spotlight after he went to Loudoun County. A parent, not a parent, but a school board meeting, and he was ended up being arrested. And the National School Board Association, even when they sent a letter to President Biden asking that they look into parents who are threatening the school boards and teachers and so on, which all that stuff is terrible. But they cited different things to make their case, and one of the issues that they cited was this man's arrest for this misdemeanor, which the prosecutor actually personally wanted to make sure that he was arrested for and wanted him to serve jail time for. So, and this was in reality, this was a man who wasn't really trying to be embroiled in the trans debate or critical race theory and all the other stuff. You heard that all about all that kind of stuff on the news, but his daughter was sexually assaulted, and that's why he jumped into the fray and was there because he wanted somebody to be held accountable and wanted to know what was going on. So I have a clip of he did some media last night, and there's people been talking about it. I mean, Daily Wire really did do a really good job with that story. So you haven't read the full long piece or haven't watched Ben Shapiro or one of the guys from the Daily Wire talk about it. It's a really heartbreaking story, and I told you all, it really upset me yesterday. And now I'm a bit more fired up. I know I don't kind of lax, but we'll see what happens when I get it going, because we really need to fight back, and there's so much at stake. And it's very clear that they don't want parents to be parents. They want you guys to have the kids, sure. I mean, the ones they don't want you to abort so they can sell them their fetal parts, fresh and never frozen, for human mice experiments. Did you guys hear about that, by the way? Did you hear about that? Because that story broke in June, I think, and I didn't hear about it till recently that the FDA was purchasing fetal body parts from first and second trimester abortions for humanized mice experiments, and they requested that the parts were fresh and never frozen, as if they were I don't know, beef from Wendy's. I was just blown away by it. And I don't know if you guys heard about that, but like I said, I hadn't heard about that. So they want you to have them, but they feel that they're supposed to be equal, and not even equal. They think that at the end of the day, the teachers and the school boards should be able to make decisions on your kids' education and the route that they go. And they really need you not to participate, or to participate as little as possible, or if you're going to participate, to be supportive of all their ideology, because it's the only way that they're going to move the country in a more Marxist direction. When you see different nations that have had socialism, communism, and so on, there's really a grip within the minds of the children, so much so that the kids can even snitch on the parents and stuff if they don't have the right sort of group think. So they really do need to turn the hearts of the children against the parents, or they need the parents to be as cowardly as possible so they do not interfere with how they're trying to change your kids. So that is what I want to focus on today. So I'm going to be talking about that story again. I'm going to be talking about I'm going to touch on the story with the DC Comics, talking about the gay Superman, the son of Superman, Jonathan Kent, has come out as bisexual in one of the stories. And I want to talk about it because Dean Cain was talking about it, and he was Superman in Lois and Clark. And I have actually met Dean Cain. He's a sweetheart. He was a big crush of mine growing up. And a really nice guy. He's obviously involved pretty much in politics and stuff like that. Very vocal about he's on the right. He's not like super hard right, but I mean, if you're on the left, you think everyone's super hard right. But he had some really profound words about the situation. So I'm gonna play a little bit of his clips and so on. And I also want to talk about some flat out indoctrination on some kids TV shows that you need to be aware of. People try to say critical race theory is just in colleges and stuff. That's not true. It's everywhere. And they really do try to lure you in and your kids in with these nostalgic feelings, so you feel safe leaving them in front of the TV, and next thing you know, you have a little Marxist on your hands. So we're going to be covering all those things today. But before we jump into it, I do encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com. This topic that I'm going to be mostly covering today, I did write an article about it not too long ago, so if you could please share that around to different places, I'd really appreciate it. Make sure that you guys are joining the email list, in case things happen, because the big tech companies, they don't like voices of dissent. I told you guys a little bit about how they would not approve of an ad my sister tried to get for me for this t-shirt, My Money, My Business, because Facebook said, well, this could change public opinions. And I'm like, no, really? Because I really want to change opinions. That's why I have my show. That's why I produce content, because I want to change hearts and minds about different social issues, political issues, and topics, and so on. So yeah, you found me out, Facebook, but what's wrong with that? I'm not a Russian. I'm an American citizen. And these platforms are really just outrageous. But anyway, I made this shirt because I was sick of people trying to force out men and other people in the abortion debate. So you guys want funds, to be going to Planned Parenthood. You want funds to be going into you want to get rid of the Hyde Amendment. So that's really asking for taxpayer dollars. So My Money, My Business. So I made this shirt. So Facebook tried to, they did stop an ad that my sister was trying to run for it. And also for some other stuff. But we do have other things you can check out. Got the pumpkin spice season mugs that are really cute. I made this little chibi Trump. So please support. He's really cute, really adorable. Also got those in shirts. They are unisex. And I got other sort of shirts and material, other mugs, got the stuff with the Black T logo on it, got these cool Frederick Douglass shirts and You Are Not That Special shirts and mugs. Love that stuff. And so we got other things in the store you can check out. So please make sure that you check out that content that I have on the site. And please, I want to thank Brighter Michigan Pack for being a sponsor. I'm in the studio. If you don't like something I say, they don't care. I don't care. It doesn't work like that. They always enjoy when I say that, so I like to say it. There's no one to complain to, no one to cry to. It doesn't work like that. I'm just using the space, and I'm grateful for it. But I'm gonna keep speaking my mind. So if I trigger you, you can just leave. It's really that simple. It's really that simple, like everywhere. But I don't know. Some people just have to ruin your life if they don't like what you have to say. But I'm gonna keep speaking. So I thank Brighter Michigan Pack. So let's get to it today. So first thing first, I do want to start off with a little comic book. This one is from my go-to guy, G Prime 85. So this is an Australian politician saying it may be that masks must, you have to wear them indoors for years. And in this crisis, it's kind of small when I'm looking at it on the screen. And she ends up, having this saying that they have to wear these, kind of sexualized submission sort of outfits. So it's a little spicy today. So the reference to this comic is this clip. It's so nice that he provided a clip.
And respond. Your level of restrictions, what you permit. It may be that we actually have indoor mask wearing for years. And this virus may throw us curve balls. There may be, we've got the Delta variant. God help us if we have another variant.
So yeah, they're just like, well, it could be forever. It could be for years. You'll just have to do what we say. Australia is a really weird place right now. I don't know. It used to be like you see all these rugged, sort of beautiful people that they'd have from like over there, and now you just see people being forced to Can't even like go across the street, I guess, without the police strangling you. I saw some wild videos over there, and it's just really amazing. There was I saw a video last night of a man from Australia, and he's like, "Do Americans really think we all want to just come to America?" They're like, "No, thank you." And someone stitched it, like replied to the video, and someone was like, "I don't know if you want to come over there, but I don't want to come over there." And she just laughed. And I'm thinking about doing a response to that video. Sony's like, "Few Americans think we want to come over there." And then it played like the clip from like Tropic Thunder when it's like, "I'm sorry, a dingo ate your baby." So we'll see if that gets me kicked off of TikTok for a little bit. But I'm totally gonna do that. Maybe I'll do that from my other account. Oh my gosh, my secondary account. But I'm gonna reply to it. But I'm just like, I guess I don't really think about. And a lot of people in the comments were like, "We don't really be thinking about other places that much, honestly." But it's true that so many people want to come to America. So that's just a fact. So I don't know why people have to hate so much. I don't know why so many people have to hate on our wonderful, great nation. So before I get into the story, I do want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com. If you enjoy what I do here, please consider leaving a donation. There's a lot I want to do, blacktnews.com with the website and the streaming and so on. And if you want to help it get there faster, be better, faster, stronger, further, whatever. Maybe Captain Marvel said in her movie. I'm sorry I invoked that movie. But there were some good scenes in it, I thought. But if you want to help Black T News get there faster, you can go ahead and support. You can go to blacktnews.com/donate. So let's get to the top headline of the day. I want to play this clip from Jordan Peterson, and this is from a few years ago, but he said a quote that really, really, really stuck with me. And this was on Fox and Friends. And this is when he was promoting his book, 12 Rules for Life. And he's had maybe a book or two after that. But he was still like super in the limelight. People really coming against him, trying to slander him, trying to cancel him. And they always feel, I don't know, there's people who feel like he's a victim for mentioning that people try to cancel him. Just because you survive the canceling doesn't mean people didn't come after you. But he said something that was really profound. And you can see that at first when he said it, they didn't know he was serious or not. So I'm going to play this, and I think it's a really powerful clip.
Don't be afraid to listen to people, right? They have counter views. People want to shut you down rather than debate you. You want the debate.
That's rule 9.
They say you're dangerous. Are you dangerous?
Yeah. Yeah,
Look
actually.
Why? Why are you dangerous? Don't look dangerous.
It depends on when you see me, I think. Why? Because I think that someone who's trying to be good should be dangerous. Like, otherwise there's no force to you. There's nothing to contend with. You know, we have this strange idea that's especially, again, foisted on young men, that the pathway to virtue is through weakness and harmlessness. And that's just simply not true. That's the pathway to uselessness and resentment. You should be able to be a monster and then not be one.
C.S. Lewis said there are different definitions of love. There are clearly different definitions of danger, too.
Yes.
So what I found so profound about that, so he said, they ask, "Are you dangerous?" He said, "Yeah." And they do not take him seriously at first. And then they're like, they obviously realize he's not joking. And they're like, "Why are you dangerous?" And he said, "Good men should be dangerous." Because there's a lot of bad people out in the world who want to fundamentally transform America, tear it down, they've torn down other countries, other great nations, come against many great people. And there's many people, that's their job, that's their aspiration, to destroy things so they can rebuild them in their twisted image. And if you are a good person, you will stand in their way because someone has to stand in their way. So if you are that person standing in their way because you are a good person, then you need to have some kind of force to you. You need to be able to stand up for your values, for what's good, for what's right. Because if you are a person who's just going to stand or just sit around in the background and let things play out, those people who are very devoted, very passionate to tearing down the world are going to succeed. So Jordan Peterson's quote was very Um, just on point. And like I said, he said that a couple years ago, but it's really stuck with me that you should be dangerous. And he said good men should have the power to be a monster and then choose not to be one. Men should have the power to be a monster and then just choose not to be one. And there's another quote he gave that's really, really good. And it wasn't that interview, but people say it a lot. If you're concerned about what tough men can do, watch what weak men will do. And that's kind of paraphrasing what it is. Because people are so concerned about masculinity to the point where they'll just call it toxic. When there's a lot of good manly men, maybe men who are a little chauvinistic a bit, that are still good moral men that raise good children. My dad's a bit of a chauvinist a little bit, but him and my mom have raised really independent, strong women. 6 girls, 1 boy, who can all think for themselves. But he's still a very masculine man who's not afraid to cry. Because he's just, you could go after he saw like The Patriot, with Mel Gibson, and there's that scene with the little girl who hasn't talked, I think maybe since their mother died, and she wouldn't say anything, and he was about to leave for war, and she wouldn't say anything, and then she was like, "Papa," right before he left, and she ran and hugged her. She's like, "I'll say anything, don't leave." And so, man, that had him like going because he relates to thinks about his girls, and so for a while the youngest was just saying "Papa," and he would just or if you mention his father, he'll get like emotional, but he's still very masculine. But anyway, they try to convince you that masculinity is bad and that you have to be passive, but at the same time they want women to be very masculine. They want women to practically be men, while they'll praise men for being women. It's all very strange. But they do not like any sort of traditional roles. They don't want any sort of traditional values. And I don't bring up traditional values and stuff to be intolerant of things that we don't consider traditional. But there is clearly a clash here where they think there can, like it's Highlander and can only be one. So that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. But if you're someone who, it doesn't even have to be you someone who wants to stand up against sort of the rising tide. If you're just a parent and you want to protect your children from just insanity, they look at you like you're crazy. So there's this father, Scott Smith, who went to a school board meeting because his daughter was sexually assaulted. We talked about this yesterday. And I'm going to play a little bit of him talking about it. He was on Laura Ingram's show last night.
This has been a crazy 3 months, but basically my daughter was sexually assaulted at the end of school in May of last year. And, I went to the school board meeting, to see what was going on because I had seen all this crazy stuff on TV. And I went to see what was going on after my daughter had been assaulted, and there was some crazy stuff being talked about, people for things, against things. I wasn't there for any, I'm good with gay people, cross-gender people, everybody. Anybody who wants to be a good American, I'm good with. I went there to find out why our children weren't safe. We were under the impression from the prosecutor that this sexual predator was being held on in-house arrest with an ankle monitor and would not return to school until these court sessions were done. That if I wanted justice for my daughter, that I needed to keep my mouth quiet and not speak out, because in order to get justice for my daughter, which is the most important thing to me, of course, was to not come out and let justice prevail. That's really scary, that our government is going to weaponize themselves against parents, and they're using my video across the nation to spread fear. That's wrong. I'm not a bully. I'm not a racist. I love everyone. I love this country.
All right,
And
Scott.
I want better stuff for it.
So he said everyone was talking about different stuff. They're talking about critical race theory. There's people protesting against the new bathroom policies in locker room policies because they wanted to allow boys and girls locker rooms and so on. So he says he was just there to speak about his daughter and find out why people weren't safe. And so at that same meeting, the superintendent said that there weren't any reported sexual assaults in bathrooms. The sexual assault happened May 28th. This meeting happened on June 22nd. And it was a school who alerted him that something happened to his daughter. There was a rape kit. So it happened. And this same boy ended up assaulting another young girl. So you have a repeat offender, and you have a parent who they are trying to keep on the hush hush. And he was there at the school board while he's being tackled and arrested by the police, because he did get fired up, because there's people aren't taking him serious or believing or whatever. And he ended up being arrested. There's video or pictures of him on the ground, his belly hanging out. And like I said, his arrest, the National School Board Association ended up referencing this incident in a letter that they sent to President Joe Biden, requesting that they get the DOJ to look into people who are threatening teachers, administrators, and so on. Now, I don't know how many threats or whatever is actually real, how much they're playing it up. But the fact that they reference this incident with this man, he is I read the whole document that the letters that they sent to him. I read it today. And then they ended up writing, back. And it is terrible if anyone would threaten those things at all, but that would be local issue stuff. So why are you writing to the DOJ? Why are you writing to the DOJ? And why are you saying they literally said, well, you could look at the Patriot Act and all these other federal things, because this could be considered domestic terrorism. So in the DOJ's letter, I don't think there's any reference in the reply. I don't think there's any reference to critical race theory and other stuff like that. But that's what a lot of these people were protesting against in some of these meetings, or the gender ideology stuff. But this particular man who was there to stand up for his daughter was a footnote in their story, in their whole cover up of his daughter's sexual assault. And they're so blinded by their ideology that these victims become invisible to them. They do not care. They do not care. And when conservatives talk about the bathroom policies and stuff, it's not because they think that all trans people are just waiting in the wings to sexually assault people in bathrooms and just jump them. That's not the case. And this policy happened, they implemented it in August, I think. Maybe it was this early August. So it was after this meeting. So it was after the initial first assault. So technically someone could go in and always, I guess, the second girl he attacked in a classroom. So someone could technically get you, I suppose, wherever. But this kid was wearing a skirt and is considered, I don't know if he's technically considered himself trans or gender fluid, but it's a boy who is apparently bi, likes to wear skirts from time to time. So he's a protected class to these people. And when people are so obsessed with protecting the other, there's people who know that they can find refuge in that identity and wreak havoc. like not too long ago, well, I guess earlier in the summer, or maybe it might have been in the spring, there was the controversy of the viral video with the Wee Spa. There was a woman complaining because there was a man who she said was revealing himself at the spa in Los Angeles. Now, and this is California, right? You're talking about Los Angeles. You can't really say anything. That's the laws that they want for people to be able to do stuff like that. But the woman is like, this person is a pervert exposing himself. There's minor in here. There's a young girl in here. He's exposing himself. And so Slate, which is a left-wing, magazine or publication, they thought it was a trans hoax. You had all these people in the community, trans community, they were saying, oh, this is terrible. There were protests and acting like this woman was a bigot. Turns out this person is a multiple assault. He's done it to other women. And he's also a sexual predator. So, not a hoax. And there's people who know that they can get away under this guise because people are so sensitive. Dave Chappelle, I mentioned him yesterday, in his Netflix special, he makes a point that there's a rapper who literally shot someone. Maybe he's at a Walmart or something. And that didn't ruin his career. But people got mad at him because he said some stuff about trans or something. So how is it that there's so much power behind this particular thing? Because if people know that this is an untouchable class, you're going to keep getting people who commit heinous acts and find refuge under this umbrella. As long as we refuse to hold anyone accountable and we keep playing oppression Olympics, like they're at the top of the pyramid, thus can do no wrong, thus that we can hear no facts and logic, all we can do is just relinquish all thought to the higher power. If that's true, there's going to keep being people who will go into drag time, story time hour, reading to kids who are perverts. That has happened. You're going to have to keep having Wee Spa incidents, and you're going to keep having assaults in the bathroom. And if you are in the LGBT community, the best thing you can do is tell all these activists and all these allies and all these psychos who are pushing all this stuff to back off. That everyone should get equal rights and equal treatment. And that's all you ask for in America. And I promise you, that's when things overall will be good. But there's too many people who live off the special hype. And so you have a father who wanted to stand up for his child. And he was arrested. And he was the face of domestic terror for the National School Board Association. I know there's so many parents, and I've talked to parents who want to save the school system, the public school system. They got their kids in public school. They like their public school. They don't want to just surrender to critical race theory. God bless you guys and Godspeed. And I understand, and I'll stand with you and fight with you. And you should keep going to these school board meetings and pressing people and so on. But I don't understand people who want to keep them in public school. I would never. But I get someone does have to be there because not everybody can have that option. But I think we should try to find ways to make it so that more people do have those options available. We totally, absolutely do. Whether it's keep funding or pushing for efforts to fund the children rather than these broken systems, rather than these activist teachers. We have to keep pushing in some sort of way to keep trying to get resources to not only moms in the burbs, but women in the urban communities so they can try to set the best foot forward for their kids. But people don't like that either. People come against homeschooling in Loudoun County. In Virginia, you have former governor who's running again right now. People are really concerned about the race. It should be an easy win, but they have Obama and some other big guns campaigning. But he said that he believed that parents shouldn't be able to pick the curriculum or what's read and so on. And people are concerned about that. Like, what do you mean parents shouldn't have a say? They're the ones fitting the bill. They're the ones who trust these kids in your care. And then you have people in our government who believe that parents aren't the ones who get the primary say. They resent you. They resent you if you believe that you are the one supposed to have the primary care. And even if we do pull everyone out of homeschool, pull everyone basically out of public school, and they know that that's not the best way that they can indoctrinate your kids anymore, or that in the colleges, because I know maybe we have a revitalization of like trade schools and other sort of facets, online schools or whatever. If they can't get their hands on your kids, they will find a way to come against you and get your kids within the home. They'll find a way to stop homeschooling. They'll find a way to really restrict it. They'll find a way to make it as hard as possible to get people back in. They'll make some kind of mandatory way federally to get a hold of your kids. They will. They absolutely will. They do it in other countries. They'll do it here if they can. They will absolutely do it here if they can. There's a lot of advocates that don't want you to homeschool your kids, that don't want you to be the primary influence on your children, especially if you have traditional sort of values. They think we are all ignorant bigots. Even a man like this who is just trying to save his daughter, trying to hold these people accountable for hurting his daughter, trying to get justice for his daughter. And even when he's being arrested, you can hear a woman. I don't have a video queued up of when he was actually like arrested, but I do have a link of it in the article I just posted. If you go to blacktnews.com, you can hear a woman in the background saying his daughter was raped in the bathroom, just yelling, trying to explain his side of the story. And the National School Board Association still put him in a footnote, and their parents are domestic terrorists. We have to look at this. We have to see if you can use the Patriot Act. I'm not kidding, the Patriot Act to hold these people accountable. That is a huge intimidation tactic. They do not want people to keep speaking out. And it's not just about this bathroom stuff, the critical race theory, that drives them crazy. And another thing the letter said, they specifically mentioned critical race theory, and they said in the letter it's not being taught in schools. Now, we've talked a lot about this on the show. Are you going to walk into your children's classroom and see critical race theory just written on the board or just obviously in the curriculum? No, probably not. Probably not. But are they going to teach certain elements of it? Absolutely. Kimberly Crenshaw, who's one of the founders of critical race theory, she was on Joy Reid's show. And Joy Reid was like, I don't want to ask dumb questions because I don't want you to think I'm dumb. But it's critical race theory. What is critical race theory? It's not a Marxist ideology, blah, blah, blah. And so Kimberly Crenshaw she tried to act like, well, if it's in schools, I don't know anything about it. I haven't heard anything about it. Which she's playing dumb. She never denied that it was tied to Marxism, though. And Joy Reid mentioned it a few times. If I didn't like Marxism and the thing that I created was being tied to it, I would want to dispel that rumor. She never addressed it. Because they're tied together. You can find that out within like 5 minutes of Googling. I promise you can. It is that simple of a tie. The connections to it, to Marxism. But anyway, Kimberly Crenshaw, she denied that there was a tie or that it was being taught in schools, but on Joy Reid's show. But then she was a part of this critical race theory summer school, where you see that they are teaching truth to power, CRT, and public education. And they said, in this channel, we will learn directly from classroom educators and education justice leaders how they have incorporated CRT insights, not the theory itself, into high school studies, history, and civics classrooms. Yeah. So it's insights. because it can be pretty complicated. They teach it in law school. But in Critical Race Theory and Introduction, I did a pretty big article on my website, blackteennews.com, about this. They want to change the world, okay? They want to redefine the world, redefine the nation. So do you think that these people who are devoted to this ideology would wait for your kid at the chance that they'll graduate high school, graduate college, and then go to law school, and then just deal with only that handful of people? Are you crazy? When you evangelize the gospel, or whether you're Christian, if you're a Christian or you evangelize some kind of other religion, do you just drop them, everybody you know who's not into that, with like just really heavy theology stuff? Or do you just kind of bait them here and there? Just drop some nuggets here and there. Yeah, so that's what they do. They try to drop nuggets here and there to indoctrinate your kids. So the National School Board Association absolutely knows, there's no way they don't, that schools are doing it. They absolutely know they're doing it. And CNN and other people who try to cover for these people doing it in schools, there was one segment we talked about on the show with Breonna Keller, and she had someone talk to a teacher who teaches it, and she's like, no, it's not in schools, but she teaches it in schools. Like, she said it like within like the same segment, and she said, described it as a worldview and a lens, and she said, can it influence teachers? And she said yes. And there was a little pause, and I thought she was going to say, but we're professionals, like we're gonna. But she said that's a good thing, that they're influenced by critical race theory. And she thinks it's a good thing because she's already bought into the premise about America is bad, America is institutionally racist, and we need to tear down these institutions and basically rebuild it into their Marxist image. And people who know enough about it know there's a Marxist connection, but there's a lot of people who try to deny it or try to do the runaround and try to deny it, but it's pretty obvious. Kimberly Crenshaw never denied it. You can find it out, the connection, within 5 minutes. So anyone who stands up against this, they want to call you a racist. I went to a Democrat Party picnic. They did not know I was a Republican, which is hilarious. And I sat through their whole picnic, and at the end, I was like debating, like, should I? There was a couple of things I thought about going up and debating people about. Like, there was this young feminist, like captain of the feminist club, or I don't know, head of the feminist party with the Loudoun County or something. I thought this was like right after the Afghanistan thing. I thought about going, so how do you feel about Joe Biden leaving all those women in Afghanistan to the Taliban? And just seeing what her reaction would be. But I left her alone. I didn't want to like totally blow my cover at the time. And so I did end up going to the party chair to talk about critical race theory, because she wanted people to get involved to kind of combat the Republicans that were being recruited to fight up against it. And so I went up to her and I said, is this really a hill that Democrats want to die on? Because I've seen the polling with breakdowns of different races, and basically all races are against it, besides African Americans are more for it. But once you keep breaking down what it is, I said, I think the tide will turn on there too. Now, there are more, like, Democrats are more in favor of Republicans, but like when you just look at the ethnicity breakdown, everyone is pretty much against it, I believe, from the poll that I saw a while ago. So I'm like, is this really a hill you want to die on? And she's like, it's just racism. I said, no, critical race theory is racism. And so I challenged her on it. And it turns out she ended up admitting she hasn't studied it. Hasn't really done the background on it. So she's like arguing about something she has no idea about, and is like trying to recruit people, dividing against Republicans who are standing against this thing that she's apparently standing up for, but she has no idea what it is. And so as I keep pressing her on it, she's like, they're racist. These people are racist. I've seen into their eyes and looked into the depths of them, and they're racist. So that's what they do. And so I'm talking to her, and I'm a little like stunned to a degree. And then I'm just like, can't you just look past the people who are against it and just look at the issue. And then she just admitted that she just needed people to run for school board. And then she asked me if I wanted to run. So, and she did sort of thank me for challenging her. She's like, you know, we need good people to be involved, even if you want to like challenge the chair a little bit, you know. And I was just like, okay. And I took her card, you know, planning to expose her. Because I do think this is an important, extraordinarily important issue. Extraordinarily important. People are using racism to destroy the country. That is the goal. That is why they play it up. That's why they talk about it nonstop. Absolutely nonstop. I'm going to play a clip from Arthur, and I didn't realize I've been talking for so long. The TV show Arthur that I used to watch as a kid, and I think they stopped making it and then they revamped it. That deals with this. I guess I'll go ahead and go into it. So, you know, the TV show, you know, and I said, hey, it's a wonderful kind of day. Learn to work and play and get along with each other. It's a good theme song. Anyway, so people were mentioning this because it doesn't make a lot of sense, in my opinion, but they have this big segment on race.
I gotta call Buster. Hey, Arthur. Hey, Buster. Did you see that video?
Yeah, I just watched it. It was awful. I can't believe someone would be hurt like that just because they're black.
Racism is so unfair. No one should ever judge someone by the color of their skin.
But how could it happen here, in Elwood City, right outside the Sugar Bowl?
Buster, it happens everywhere.
No. Buster has a really good point. How can it happen here? How can it happen here? Racism against a black person in a show with all animals. How? How is this possible? Because I don't recall watching Arthur as a kid and seeing any humans at all. None whatsoever. So Buster has a really good point. So how are you doing this segment on race? You see, because TV shows like this, if they were just, I don't know, like creative actual people, you can actually write stories, right? And you can actually deal with real world issues and problems without force feeding it like through a tube. See, X-Men, you know, they dealt with problems of being different and race and so on with people being against their mutant powers and stuff. So they could deal with pretty blatant issues without being like, oh my gosh, they're black. There's an episode from the animated cartoon, and it was like a going in the future episode and then back to the past. So there was like a Storm and Wolverine from the future who ended up going back to the past with Bishop. And then they were in maybe like the late 70s or something with Charles Xavier and someone. So Wolverine and Storm were together at the time. And someone tried to like come up against Storm, and she's just like, skin color prejudice? That's so pathetic. It's almost quaint. And so Wolverine didn't think it was cute or quaint, so he was about to fight them, but maybe he did fight them at that point. But my point is that is just something that's not even really dealt with on that show, because they have another way of dealing with it. So why not have an episode? Why do you have talking about a black person? You don't have black people in this show. Everyone is an animal. So why can't it be about like people think like it's bunnies against Brian or whatever. Like I think Steven Crowder actually used to voice one of the kids on the show. So it's pretty funny because he's so, you know, right wing, right? The show's going so far left. So why not have, you know, a differences sort of that way? You like literally had to mention black people and there's no humans in the show. Is something changed? Is something different? Is something different from the time I watched it as a kid? Because I don't remember seeing any humans in the show. And you could obviously do Land Before Time. 3 horns don't play with long necks. You guys remember that movie? That obviously dealt with people's differences without having to say, hey, there's a Negro over there. We don't like them. So there's a really more sophisticated way that you could deal with these issues, but they don't want to deal with it in a sophisticated way. They want to indoctrinate your kids and make them so hyper focused on race like it is the only thing in the world. Like it is the only thing. And it has broken their brains, and they do not know how to communicate properly and write a good story, or just even write a decent story. They are so obsessed with this narrative. So let's play a little bit more.
Hello, boys. I'm so glad you reached out to me. Yes, I saw the video too. And let me tell you, it made my blood boil.
Me too.
It also made me scared. I mean, this happened in our neighborhood.
It is scary, Buster. But you should know that a lot of grown-ups are fighting racism and working hard to keep us all safe.
Why does this keep happening, Mrs. McGrady?
Well, racism is like a disease. If you don't treat it, it's just going to get worse.
Wait, if racism is a disease, can I get it?
Buster, don't worry. This isn't about you.
Actually, it is. It's about all of us. It's not enough to just say, I'm not racist. It's not my problem. We have to actively fight against racism.
So racism is like a disease, and it's not enough to just not be racist. You have to fight against racism. So this Ibrahim Kendi does preach a watered down version of critical race theory, and people try to disassociate him with the movement. But even if you read like critical race theory and introduction to people who write on critical race theory, it's meant to sort of, they acknowledge there's different factions or different camps or whatever that sort of breaks off from the movement, and it's supposed to have a really active element to it. Because of course they wanted, like, you can't change the world just teaching in law school, right? You have to preach it in other sort of ways. So that is a sort of thinking where you can't just not be a racist. You have to actively be an anti-racist. So you have to fight against it, but you have to fight against it in the ways. Do you know how you fight against racism? Like honest to God, how you do it? Like my dad says this. He's like, just get to know each other, get to know people, because you presume so much. And you can look at somebody like, oh, they looking at me funny. They must be racist, must not like black people. Maybe they had a headache. Maybe they're thinking about something else. Get to know that person. Get to know them. Or there's one particular person who, there's a black guy, can't think of his name, but he befriends Klan members to convert them out of the Klan. Now, maybe you don't want to take up all that time doing that much, but there's someone who actually takes the time to try to fight against hate by building relationships. Treat everyone with respect. Racism is so terrible because it's for the lazy and it is for the stupid. To just assume so much about people without trying to build any sort of relationships, that you would just jump to conclusions and just have this emotion of hate out of nowhere or dislike. And you know, it's not just when you dislike people. It's also when you have the soft bigotry of low expectations. And it's not really soft bigotry. It's super hard. It is super hard today when you feel that you have to get rid of standardized tests, or to lower standards to get in schools, to not have math and other stuff like that, because you want more minorities or whoever to be able to pass or have the scores that you want them to have, rather than just, I don't know, trying to solve the root problems. Like you just like, oh, this is clearly, we see these people on the lines, and we see their race, and we see the grades, and we have determined that the race is the problem. So we have to eliminate anything that would make them competitive. So we have to lower everyone's standard by just getting rid of standards. That's what these people do. And another thing about what she said, because she ended up quoting later after that clip, she said that, you know, an injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere, or something like that. You can't just like stand up. You have to do something when you see something that's wrong. And so that's great that she feels that way. But if you try to bring that same sort of energy to like the abortion debate, oh my gosh, she'll say it's not your business. So people aren't even genuine when they say stuff like you have to stand up for different injustices. No, they want to use injustice to push their injustice. They want to use their injustice to push injustice. So this is a TV show, Arthur. So if your kids are watching that, FYI, I just wanted you to know. I just absolutely wanted you to know about the sort of stuff that they are pushing. But if you're against stuff like that, or if you don't like everyone being hyper focused on race, you're a bigot. Even if you're someone who treats people with respect, if you don't denounce your white privilege, if you don't actively fight against racism in the way that they say you should fight against, then you are a racist person. If you try to protect your daughter who was sexually assaulted, and maybe people in the community heard about that and they don't want the boys going into the girls' locker room, or you want your girls to compete on a girls' basketball team or something without like a 6-foot dude coming in wearing a skirt saying, I own the place, and just taking all the scholarships or beating all the records or whatever in their track or whatever sport it is, then you're intolerant. And it just goes on. If you are willing to protect your children, they demean you. They demean you. So they think you are dangerous and they do not like you. And I played this Jordan Peterson quote early on. If you missed it, you can go back and listen to it. But he said, if you're a good person, you have to have some kind of force to you. If there's nothing to contend with, then what are you? And he said he's dangerous. And they're like, oh, laughing, ha ha ha. He's like, they're like, well, oh, he's not joking. He said you should be dangerous because there should be a force to you. You cannot afford to just sit back and do nothing while these people try to reshape the greatest country in the world and lead it to rubble and ruin. I want to talk about this. Now, this is another thing. This is from some weeks ago. But you probably saw this because some people who watch Blue's Clues. Now, there's a suspicious amount of people in my age group that got emotional about this because, I've seen Blue's Clues because my youngest sister watched Blue's Clues. So I was older than preschool level when this show came out. So I'm like, I think there was a lot of people who probably couldn't count were watching this show because there's a lot of older people who were like emotional about this clip. But it was kudos to Nick Jr. for doing this because it touched a lot of people. But I could not jump on the train. And some people were mad at me because I just couldn't jump on the nostalgia train because I know the kind of stuff that Blue's Clues is doing. So I'll play a little bit of this and then I will go on to why Blue's Clues is evil.
Hi. You got a second? Okay. You remember how when we were younger we used to run around and hang out with Blue and find clues and talk to Mr. Salt, freak out about the mail and do all the fun stuff. And then one day I was like, oh, hey, guess what? Big news. I'm leaving. This is my brother Joe. He's your new best friend. And then I got on a bus and I left. And we didn't see each other for like a really long time. Can we just talk about that? Great. Because I realized that was kind of abrupt. I just kind of got up and went to college. And that was really challenging, by the way, but great because I got to use my mind and take a step at a time. And now I literally am doing many of the things that I wanted to do. And then look at you and look at all you have done and all you have accomplished in all that time. And it's just so amazing, right? I mean, we started out with clues and now it's what? Student loans and jobs and families. And some of it has been kind of hard. You know? I know you know. And I wanted to tell you that I really couldn't have done all of that without your help. And in fact, all the help that you helped me with when we were younger is still helping me today, right now. And that's super cool. I guess I just wanted to say that after all these years, I never forgot you, ever.
So people were crying, sharing this, like, oh my gosh. Now I give kudos to Blue's Clues for bringing that back and bringing back him and then the guy who replaced him to kind of set it up. Like they're very good at marketing this, but they lure you in with this nostalgia, so you will just let your children, you leave them alone in front of the TV while they just suck you in and indoctrinate them. That is their goal. So I'm like, I can't just sit up around and be happy about Blue's Clues because you got Steve in front of the TV to say, hey, sorry, I ghosted you guys all those years ago, when I know the kind of stuff that they're teaching to your kids. So it started, the first thing that people noticed and jumped on about and talked about was this Blue's Clues like pride thing, when they had was doing like an alphabet book thing, and the P was for pride. And so one of the flags they right here they have is pansexual. And so I just have to ask you, well, why? So this isn't really about representation so much. I think, well, I think it's a lot about indoctrination. And but I just have to ask, why are you teaching kids about what pansexual is? I just got to ask, because that's like when you like sexually would do it, I guess, or be sexual with any sort of gender, right? Any sort of identity. You don't have boundaries in that sort of way. So it's not about you identifying as a girl or as a boy or both. It is a sexual thing. So why? So why? Why would you have that flag? Why would you have that flag on Blue's Clues? This show is still catered to preschoolers, correct? Kind of sick. So I'm sorry, I can't get excited about Steve. And it didn't end with there. There's other stuff. During Pride Month, they had a big parade. And who was leading it? A drag queen. And the microphone, there's like a little fist, a fisting fist in the microphone. I've played this before on the show. I'm play it again. I'm sorry for your ears.
Hey, Blue, look at all these families. Hi, families. It's time for a pride parade. Families marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. This family has two mommies. They love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Families marching two by two, hurrah, hurrah. Families marching two by two, hurrah, hurrah. This family has two daddies. They love each other so proudly, and they all go marching in the big parade. Come on, friends. Families marching three by three.
I won't make you suffer through more of that, but I think it goes all the way up to 10 maybe. And because I think I did watch all of it. And they have different people who are binary, they have transgender families and so on. So I just watched the whole thing because I was curious when they might represent a traditional family, right? And I know this is a pride parade, but this number thing is teaching people about, they're using the pride parade to teach people about different sort of families. So they didn't start with a traditional family like most kids would probably have. They started with the mommies, and then they did the daddies, and then it's like mixing their, and then there's like a hodgepodge of people like family. You get to choose your families, it's like, and people have like flags and stickers just all over the place. So you don't get to people who are probably straight until number 9. And at that point, they just called them allies. They didn't say mom and dad and so on. They just said allies. And that's what they reduced them all down to. So when they're trying to be inclusive and to teach about all sorts of families, who doesn't make the cut? A traditional mom and dad, a nuclear family. Don't you find that so interesting? Don't you guys find that there's a TikTok trend? It's like, don't you find that suspicious? Don't you find that suspicious? So, Nickelodeon has always been a little more radical, but they've been more obvious in past couple of years in the trajectory of where they wanted to go. But straight up reaching out to your preschoolers, that is something. That is bold. So excuse me, I'm just not really going to jump on that train and get excited because, especially again, I'm old enough to know who Steve was. I did see some episodes because my sister is watching it. And by the way, she could solve those clues a lot better than Steve. She should have went to college, not him. Uh, but I'm not gonna just be like, oh, so emotional when they're doing this sort of thing. They lure it in a lot of you suckers, I'm sure. But I will not comply with the madness. And I mentioned it and I shared that and I made a status and someone tried to come at me and they're like, people just want to be happy. I'm just like, I mentioned it because I don't think people know. And if I hopefully you guys learned something new today. But I want people to be informed. So that's why I talk about it. I don't necessarily want to be a jerk. Sometimes I do want to rain on your parade, especially that kind of parade. Just to be honest. But I think it's important for people to know. Because if you don't, this stuff will just keep expanding and spreading and so on. So what do you do with information like this? Hopefully you're not going to let your kids watch Blue's Clues. Hopefully your kids aren't going to be watching Arthur anymore. Hopefully you're going to be more careful about what they watch. There was Gonzarella on Muppet Babies wore a dress. They did like a Cinderella episode and he wanted to be a princess. That was a lot. That show is like geared toward preschoolers. Sesame Street is obsessed with race as well. A lot of the stuff geared toward your kids, they're trying to hook them early with these themes and stuff. I don't know what your kids are supposed to watch. I don't have any right now. But you got to be diligent with this stuff because they are trying to raise your kids behind your back. And if they can't, even if you homeschool them, you have in front of a TV or something, they're going to try to get you some way. If they can't, they're going to try to do through legislation eventually. But they're definitely pushing it through entertainment. So I just thought you guys should know. I know it's kind of late, but I did say that I wanted to mention this really quickly. I talked about how New York Times reported that DC Comics was doing a gay Superman. Now, this is Jonathan Kent. This is Clark Kent's son, who is now, I guess, taking the mantle. And he's come out as bisexual. And the author said the idea of replacing Clark Kent with another straight white savior felt like a missed opportunity. By the way, I just want to point out how absolutely racist this stuff is. That is a racist statement. Like, oh, who needs another white savior? As a matter of fact, Kevin Feige of Marvel said basically the same thing with WandaVision. Some of you guys were like, where's Doctor Strange? Now, granted, there was COVID stuff, so I think there was actually like maybe a shooting issue too. But he also said like, who needs a white savior coming in saving the day, right? It's like, he's the Sorcerer Supreme. So I just don't, when I think Doctor Strange, I don't necessarily think the white guy. I think he's a Sorcerer Supreme, and it's kind of incompetent to have like someone doing all this magic, holding a town hostage, and him not doing anything. But that's just me. So you guys look sort of incompetent. On top of racist. Congratulations, Marvel. These companies aren't good. These companies aren't good. So when they say like we don't need another white savior, we just need people who are willing to do the right thing. Period. It doesn't, them being gay, them being black, them being Hispanic, those things aren't what make them good people. Them deciding to do good for the sake of good, that's what makes them good. That's what makes them good. So this is also, they also do woke stuff like fighting climate change, protesting against refugees. So it's really obvious in the direction that they're going. And I did talk about that yesterday, so I'm not going to talk about that too much, but I did wanted to play Dean Cain's statement on it. And by the way, I have met Dean Cain at Motor City Comic Con years ago, and I did also see him in Philadelphia, I think at another convention, and he remembered me and my sister Katrina, who's on the end standing next to me. And he was like, oh, the Edas, and he kissed her cheeks, and it was a really good time. But this is in Detroit. There is a Motor City Comic Con this weekend, by the way. If you are going, I will be there. I will have a table, and I will be selling some of my books. So if you are there, please see me. But yeah, that's where he met Dean Cain years ago. Man, it's still fine. He's Fine and smart. So anyway, he had some comments about this.
They're talking about him fighting, real world problems like climate change, the deportation of refugees, and he'll be dating a hacktivist, whatever a hacktivist is. I don't know. But, why don't they have him fight the injustices that created the refugees whose deportation he's protesting? That would be brave. I'd read that. Or fighting for the rights of women to attend school and have the ability to work and live, and boys not to be raped by men under the new warm and fuzzy Taliban. That would be brave. There's real evil in this world today, real corruption and government overreach, plenty of things to fight against, human trafficking, real actual slavery going on. It'd be brave to tackle those issues, shine a light on those issues. As far as, I'd like to see the character doing that. I read that comic. This one, I don't think I'll be reading. I could just watch CNN or MSNBC to get this information.
So he's correct. It's not brave and stunning. He also said, if this was maybe this was 20 years ago, this would be something brave and something new. But they've been pushing a lot of the stuff in the comic books for some time now. And he was on, I think, Supergirl for a little bit and had a daughter or something that was gay. On the CW show, shows on the superhero shows, everybody's gay. Not everybody, but just about everybody's got somebody who's gay. Flash has a gay daughter. Barry, who's Green Arrow, had a gay son. They had Mr. Terrific, who wasn't gay in the comics unless they changed that in the past couple of years, but his wife was killed and that's why he's an atheist, but he's gay in the show. They just had a lot of people who are gay in the network and different stuff. So it's not that this is so new and groundbreaking, but they just don't want people to be. Some of it is self-inserts from different writers that they feel that they need that representation. Like in the Loki show, the writer or the director of the show was like, it was very important to show his LGBTness or something, because he's like a shapeshifter. So they said he's, I think, gender fluid or something like that. And I'm like, what do you mean it's important? He's been around for like a decade in Marvel, more, I guess, and it's never come up. So how can you say it's important to his character? It just sounds like it's important to you, so you wanted to shoehorn it in because you wanted it to make that statement, and you wanted to use this popular character, extraordinarily popular character, to have a personal win. Because you can't say it's important to who he is, because it's, like I said, he's been around for over a decade, at least in the cinematic universe, been around for a lot longer. And it really hasn't been important. It's just important to you. It's just important to the narratives that you want to push, because you feel like your identity, who you sleep with, is somehow more important than story, more important than your character. Like that, like it makes up who you are. And I don't know how you live like that. Not of being more than who you sleep with. Or thinking that it would just be so much of a missed opportunity if another straight white guy saved the day. If someone pulled you from a burning building, would you really go, another straight white male? No, you wouldn't do that. You absolutely would not. So Dean Cain made an excellent point. Like, this isn't brave. This isn't even new. It's not brave. It's not bold. It's not stunning. And there's a lot of tragedies going on in the world. There's a lot of injustice in the world. There's things that these companies will not even touch, like China, for example. They won't even touch things like that, because they want to be able to play their movies, not get shut down, because it's a really big media market for them. So they could be courageous in a lot of other ways and really take a stand on certain issues. But they're just narrative chasing. So thank you, Dean Cain, for speaking out. People were really hating on him. He mentioned Iran, so he said Iranians, I think their embassy and stuff were going at him or something like that, or the nation, on Twitter and other stuff like that. And he blocks trolls. He just laughs at trolls. He'll retweet them and just laugh at them. So he's someone who's active on social media. He's liked a tweet or two of mine at the time, sometimes, and it makes me happy again, because he was a big crush of mine growing up. He played Superman and Lois and Clark. and we definitely watched that as young. And he was a Superman who is of Asian descent, and I don't know how many people were like Superman can't be Asian. And at the time when he got cast, they thought he was a little too short. That's what they were concerned about. But he was so popular, and when he did the audition, he wasn't going to get it. But he was like, I think maybe he was on maybe it was Melrose Place or something like that, some show, and all the ladies were like, oh my gosh, Dean Cain, and they're like, oh, we might have something here, because they realized that he was a ladies' man and pretty popular. So he got the role of a lifetime, and I'm glad that he did. But him going around saying, "Hey, I got this bit of Asian in me, and I'm Superman," like that was not important to him in that time. He was just Superman playing a character who stood up for truth, justice, in the American way. But they think that somehow the character is less important than these identities of the people who write them and so on in their narrative. It's just a really bizarre time, and it's unfortunate because so much of our movie industry is bad. So much of the TV shows that we watch are terrible, and the comic books are just going to trash. I was watching Young Rip in 95, and he was talking about this, and he just said DC's not a serious company, but he said someone who was working with him on a project when he's known about this coming out for a while, the Superman thing, and he said that because of this was a turning point for someone who was working for DC and why they're going to leave and start working on other stuff. So if you are a creative person, you should get on the ball and try to create something yourself, and you should support other people who have creative content, and try to get them out there, because there's a lot of stuff out here that is just wearing these symbols, these emblems, and they don't care about the characters, but they're using their title and their power to try to push their agendas. And so maybe it's time to let Superman and Batman die, and all these Avengers and so on die for a little bit, and support something else, like me. A little plug there. Just FYI, I do write books. Like I said, I am going to be at Motor City Comic Con this weekend. My website, I'll pull it up so you guys have the link. ninjadoespublishing.com. That is my website. I have lots of books on there. I only have an image of one teed up, so this is one of my series. It takes place in the Civil War. It is about a slave named Charlotte who discovers she has the powers to make herself free. And she kind of goes from being a slave to like a revolutionary hero. If you could kind of think about the movie Harriet, obviously Harriet Tubman is a real person, but particularly think about that movie, and then incorporate like X-Men sort of stuff. That is sort of like the world you would get with this. And so I have that historical fiction fantasy. I have other fiction books, paranormal, romance, action adventure. I have children's books, like middle grade chapter books, which I'm pretty excited because my nephew's getting to the point where he could probably pick up and read Super Kid. I will be an emotional person when that happens, when he just can pick up my book, because I thought I'd have to do like a picture book. And I have been working, I have a lot of picture books written. I just don't have the art done. But that'll be something when I can actually see my nephews and nieces actually reading my material. And I have a lot of kids have told me that my stories are epic. So FYI, that's the word on the streets from the kiddos. So you can check out my stuff on ninjadoespublishing.com. And I don't have to be the content creator that you support, though I do ask that you would like consider in supporting. But find other people to support, because there's all these big companies. A lot of them are just producing content, and it's not good content. It's just really to influence, indoctrinate your kids. And it's not about representation, it's about indoctrination. And that's what the Superman story is about. That's what they're doing at Marvel. That's what they're doing at Arthur and PBS and all these other places. So please consider supporting other people and helping them grow. So I got a lot. I've written 30 books. The kids book name, thank you, Clint, is Super Kid. It's Super Kid and Super Kid 2. So I'm going to be at Motor City Comic Con this weekend. If you are there, you can go ahead, and I'm going to have a table in Artist Alley. I think it's like H16. It's either H16 or H15. I'm going to be sitting next to my sister. So you guys can check that out. Check out the stuff that I have and buy some books. And you can also go to the website and buy some. I do have a link if you guys want to just like buy something and with the copies that I have. And if I don't have it, I'll have to buy it and then ship it. But if you want like an autograph or something, I do have like a form you can fill out, and I can just ship what I have so I can write it. But otherwise, you can just get it through Amazon. So whatever you want to do, it's available to you. So just there's a little plug for me. I don't plug my books often. Oh, thank you, Clint. Thank you, Clint. He said he has a couple of kids, so he's going to check it out. They're good books. Not just because I wrote them, but I do like them. I do enjoy them. One time I was reading a book, and my dad's like, "Are you laughing at your own book?" I'm like, "Yeah, because it's funny, Dad." Like, it's funny. Thank you guys so much for watching the show today. Please go to blacktnews.com, share different content that I have, including the article that I dropped today about basically how these people want to shut down parents. They don't like you. So just let other people know. It's got good links in the stories as well that you guys can check out. It's really embarrassing, the National School Board Association taking the time to really single out parents, and particularly this parent who was just really trying to protect his daughter. So go to the website. If you like blacktnews.com, please consider supporting at blacktnews.com/donate. And also check out different merchandise that we have at the store. We got different stuff with the logo. We got the goat hoodie. That's my best seller there. We also have it in different colors. We do have it in shirts, but it is a very comfortable hoodie, and we are in fall time. We got the Defeat Joe Biden, Denounce White Supremacy, the list of his racism on the back. We got I Am Not the Victim That You're Looking For. And I do have some fall theme stuff with the pumpkin spice season, the Chibi Trump, and I got those in shirts. And also, this is the shirt that Facebook does not want to prove the ad for, the My Money, My Business shirt, because I'm so sick of the abortion debate. You can go ahead and pick that up at blacktnews.com. Thank you guys so much. I was supposed to have an interview with Tudor Dixon today, but there was a complication. So I will be interviewing her tomorrow, but I will probably play the interview on Friday. I will be at Comic-Con on Friday, so I will have a live airing show. But it will be premiering live. I will not actually be live, but I will have good stuff. So keep watching throughout the rest of the week. Black Tea News will still be here. God bless you guys, and I'll catch you tomorrow.